Alright, so here's a quick video on how to sew jet pockets. There's, of course, like always, many different ways of doing so. What I recommend is following this practice, which is a nice way how you can hide the pockets and the sewing on the inside as well. So this is the inside of the garment. I have marked my jet pocket with the magic pen, so this will disappear when I iron in a minute, but I wanted to show you how to position the fusing. So because one of our pattern pieces is actually a rectangle of fusing, which is just a little bit bigger than the actual pocket will be. That's so when we are cutting, we're going to cut later the opening for our pocket, these points are not are strong enough, so they're not too weak. Yeah, so this is to strengthen the points. Then we also have two pocket bags and two welts. Mine are extended as they will be. I've got notches for where the fold lines are. So then later on the inside, on the outside it will look like, on the outside, this will be the inside, so there will be inside like this. From the outside you will only see the jet left. So for the top and the bottom, and I already overlocked them. And this one is the facing piece. I mean, obviously calico and calico, I wouldn't need a facing piece. But if you're making this in your real fabric, your final fabrics, then you do want to put, often we have the pocket bag in a lining fabric, in a pocketing fabric, and then our facing here is needed so that we see the main fabric when the pocket opens here behind. So that's the facing. Okay, so after overlocking these edges, these three edges, we will be ironing on, and I've already fused actually these two pieces as well, my jets, or if you're doing a single one like a welt pocket and your welt, do you want to fuse them? And then the next thing is I'm going to fuse the opening, so where I'm cutting on the inside of the garment, of course. Okay, so now I have remarked it, but this is basically now the fusing applied where we will be cutting the opening for the pocket later. Next thing is to stitch the darts, and I've also already pressed the jets, and also I have prepared my facing piece on the back of the backing of the pocket. So I'm just going to stitch that here. If you're wondering why we're not overlocking the top edge, that's because when we're stitching later, this will disappear in there, and that means there's not going to be any movement, therefore it will not fray and there's no risk. Okay, so that's why it's not needed. Okay, to sew the dart, we need to put these two dart legs on top of each other. So to the inside of the garment, we are folding it. So you should have a center line of the, or center point of the dart marked, and then to the point exactly where it ends. I usually like to put a pin in, so I know this will not move. And then you can prepare it and check, making sure that you're on the correct line by pinning exactly on your markings. And when you do that, you can check the other side and make sure you are on the line where you want to be. If you're not, you want to take the needle out again, move it a little bit and try again, and make sure you're directly on the line. If it's a long dart, you want to put multiple pins in. Yeah, and then you can start sewing. So for the dart, we backstitch at the top, so we secure our seam. Then we go to the end, and here at the end of your dart should be the start of your pocket, by the way. But here we do not backstitch because it will not give us a nice finish. It's running out into a millimeter. The fabric will kind of, we're stitching right on the edge, and if you backstitch there, it will be very thick. So what we're doing instead is we get to the end and we continue to sew without fabric under. That will knot the fabric. The other option we have is to pull it out and knot it by hand. Let me show you. So start with the back stitch. You always want to pin in a way that you can pull out the needle towards you, rather than having the head of your pin here and needing to pull it in this direction now. can see that. So right at the end here, with my last stitch, I will actually lift up the foot and the needle and pull it out. You need to put the needle high enough so that it comes out, and then I'm going to use these threads to knot it off manually. Oops. So I leave them long enough, don't cut them short, otherwise you need to start again, unpick and start again. So, because they will unravel, and that's not what you want. So here at the end, I'm going to put at least 2 knots, and then you go and press your dart. I always put 3 just to be sure. Then you can cut it off. And you should have a neatly finished dart. And then you're ready to sew your pocket. Okay, so now we're ready for sewing. So I have also marked my pocket now to the outside of the garment. You can see here's my dart, this is the outside, and these are the jets that I want to sew in here. So how we do have to place them? We kind of place them in a way that this is my finished jet that I want to see later. So I'm putting it opposite of how I want it to be, because then we're gonna turn it around. Yeah, so if you think about it, I want to place it like this. I'm gonna stitch here and I'm gonna cut it open and fold all of this inside, and that's what I have left. So when pinning, you always need to make sure that this point here is directly on the marking where you want it to be. So one way how you can do that, you're just putting in a pin, making sure it's nice and straight and sitting correct. And once you have that in place, you can continue to pin, and then the same for the other end. You want to go through here and in here. Always lift up and check if you are in the right spot, and then obviously you still have to pin the rest of it also neatly on the line. I just want to be checking. And now I want to stitch this. I will back stitch here, of course, and then all the way to the end and back stitch again. So these points need to be quite secure so that the pocket bag will be really strong. And on the inside, we're going to place the pocket bag, which will basically we will be stitching on, and then we're going to cut through as well. So it will all be nicely hidden on the inside. So just make sure you're in the correct position. And it reaches all the way to your waist seam, so that it's nice and clean afterwards. And then you can sew from the outside your... So now I stitched my jet here, obviously making sure you're not stitching all the way to the end, only to your markings, and then obviously back stitching as I said before. On the inside we're just stitching on top of the pocket bag, that is fine. Then we're getting to do our second jet. So here we want it to sit later on the inside like this. So for that to happen, we have to turn it around to this side, so the facing part is facing down. And then basically if we stitch it, it folds to the inside like that. Yeah, so again, we want to be sure that we are on our markings. Here it's a little bit trickier because we have the dart, but if you pin it precisely, it should be fine. can stitch this part as well from marking to marking. So now I've stitched this second jet, make sure that both of them are 7mm, and now I have a look on the inside. So you can double check here, you should have like a 1.5 centimeter distance all the way, and they should end at the same point, so that yeah, your jets and the opening is aligned. So now we are ready to cut, and we need to cut exactly in the center, stopping a centimeter from each side and then going to the angles, to the corners. Going up a little bit there, which is probably not ideal, but I'm just going to go ahead now. And then 1 centimeter from the end, actually 1 centimeter, rather a bit more, rather 1.2 than a bit too little. Usually it's 1 centimeter. And then from here, instead of going this way, you will have to cut this direction. Do not cut first straight and then in this direction, yeah? So maybe make sure you do not use that initial line. Maybe you do want to stop first, so you don't even have the temptation, like kind of the wrong indication to go all the way. And then you can cut. When you're cutting, just be careful to only cut these 2 layers. So you have the pocket bag and the pant. We're not cutting any of the jets underneath. So underneath, I'm feeling this with my fingers, making sure that I'm moving away any excess fabric and other pieces that I don't want to cut. Okay, now we are able to pull through our jets to the inside. And it's starting to look like a pocket. So I'm just gonna go and press this and make sure everything is aligned. Okay. So in case you have too much of a pleat here, you want to go back to the inside and make sure you've cut all the way to the corner on all 4 sides, corners basically, and then you want to press it neatly. On the inside, just making sure everything sits correctly. And a little bit out, you can see here, maybe my pocket bag wasn't as centered as I was hoping it to, but that's not a big problem. You can trim this and then trim this on the side. But this is how it should look on the inside, and this is how it looks on the outside. it looks a bit uneven, but I haven't pressed it all the way open. Okay, so now we are ready to sew the next step. So this one here is quite an important one. So here obviously right now we have an opening, right? We didn't stitch this one down yet. So we need to pull this back after pressing, and then this triangle here that we had cut before needs to be stitched down. So really carefully stitching it in place from here. So you lift up this layer as well so you can actually see your triangle and stitch it neatly, making sure that you don't move too much, because as you can see, if I twist this a little bit and pull it on a different angle, I could be stitching it like this, and then your pocket looks bad even though it was actually good before. Yeah, so just make sure it's nice and straight, pin it maybe first, and then stitch across here, back stitching on both sides. And the other thing we will also do now is this facing part here. We will stitch it onto the pocket bag so it stays in place, and same on the side, stitching it onto the pocket bag so it stays in place. Okay, so now that that's done, our pocket is almost finished. So you can see this is how it looks. Now it's no longer open here. And now we are ready to attach the pocket bag, so this actually becomes a functional pocket. I have stitched down the facings. Now I'm just going to make sure that this is all nice and straight. Okay, and the reason why we have put our pocket bag under and cut and stitched on it is so that now when we are stitching our last pocket bag on top, everything is clean, like we don't have our jets kind of sitting here or anything like that. Okay, so last step. Remember that if you're stitching this in real fabric, this is our facing piece, so this is the main fabric, where this one often enough is pocketing, so it's not too thick. So if we place this on top from our opening, we should see the facing. And then you just stitch all around it. And then a nice way of finishing this, either overlocking or of course like binding the edges, would also be quite pretty. I'm just overlocking the edges now of the pocket bag, and I wanted to show you how to go around the corner as well. So I stitch a little bit, and then I will move my pocket bag, lift up the foot to move my pocket bag, then stitch a little bit, lift up the foot, and that's how I do a curve with the overlocker. Obviously when I'm going straight I don't need to do this. And you can see now the corners look okay. I've just added one more stitch, and it's just to hold the pocket bag to the waist, so it doesn't slide down when it's stitched to the waistband later. So obviously I stitch at 5mm because later the seam will be 1 cm. I don't want my stitching to be visible. And that's it, our jet pocket is ready. I hope the steps will help you to create your own jet